Welcome to Symplatform, the place where academic knowledge meets the practice world to foster a critical discussion on what platforms are, how they work, and what they can become for people, organizations, and our society.
Going on, we're writing a book, and so we've written a chapter on digital platform, and building on the sense of community. We want to share it with you and maybe offer you the opportunity to contribute and tell us what you think. Sébastien, you want to go ahead?
Yeah. Do you see the screen normally? Full screen? Good. Perfect. Thank you, Christopher. It was amazing, raising a lot of questions. And obviously, we are connected to those topics and this subject. The three of us, Laurent, Deepak, and I, it's maybe to start, it's a brief history of this book, because the chapter and unlocking the power of networks and the story about digital platforms is just one chapter among 8 of them. It's just a mutual interest, and also we all meet in Dublin, in Trinity College, where Laurent is also the head of the Center for Digital Business and Analytics. Sorry, I hope I mentioned it correctly. And he was also the supervisor or the head of the MSc in Digital Marketing and Strategy in Trinity, where I hold a position as a visiting professor. And the book is also a common and joint story between Laurent and I for couple of years, let's say it to remain young, at least 2 years as a platform, at least 2 sites. So it's also the results of multiple experiences from each of us with entrepreneurs, with corporate leaders, industry leaders, and the institutions such as the social, the sharing economy think tanks that we can find in some region. And the idea was to develop a book where you can grab collectively, define and grab all the knowledge that we have regarding the academic knowledge and the managerial body of knowledge, to define the concepts, describe the various ways the digital businesses create and capture value. And the idea was to give and open, by the end of each chapters, the notion of giving tools for managers, for corporate leaders, for entrepreneurs, to address the challenges raised by the digital. So we brought, of course, there is an introduction, and connected to what Christopher mentioned, and the comment down by Laurent, I think winter is coming, in the sense that we are in a mature stage of development of platforms, and the ways of raising innovation is doomed by the big GAFAM, I would say, where is it easier to being under the umbrella of Amazon instead of developing your own marketplace, and so on and so on. So 6 topics raised in this book, which is a draft book. One on digital platforms, I will come back on this one. One on digital merchants, free-based business models, as there is no free is not a business model as it was written by the past, and there are a couple of ways to take and to use the free as a tactic or a long-term strategy, the magnitude of subscription, the sharing economy, and of course the social networks and social media. So the idea with this presentation is just to give you an introduction of and the tone of the chapter 2, which is related to digital platforms. Of course, I will not introduce what are platforms, what are not platforms. I like the notion of that, but just raising a couple of I would say, a common interest, broad understanding before giving the lead to Laurent on the second part and focusing more on the marketing tactics and the way to attract and communicate to attract. So as it was previously mentioned by Christopher, we are in a platform revolution. If you look at the most important, the most valued companies around the world, we observe in the last decade a shift where in 2008, and maybe we cannot consider Microsoft at this time as being a platform-based company, but Microsoft could then be considered as the only one platform-based company among this ranking of the 10 most valued companies in the world. Whereas in 2018, so a couple of years ago, 7 on 10 companies were definitely adopting a platform-based business model. So this is also seducing for newcomers and new other companies. What is at stake and what is operating here? It's also a shift, a new way of designing organizations beyond the traditional view of the linear view of the companies until the 20th century. We are now in a more open, a more diffused way of seeing the connections, as it was mentioned with the graph from Van Alstyne. We are able, based on different assets, to interconnect producers with consumers with the orchestration of a provider and a platform owner. And those are opening, I would say, new ways of doing businesses. And also, it's also questioning a need, maybe, of designing a new strategic mind frame. What we observe, again, as a broad introduction, is that everything is enhanced by the IT. What we observe beyond this shift from a linear view of the value chain to a more interconnected side and a more hybrid value chains, is that there is a diffusion of a consumer-centric approach, technology-enhanced and data-driven. To connect that with Christopher's keynote, I consider, as I'm often connected with entrepreneurs when they launch their businesses, it's easier, especially with the development of no-code, the fact that you can develop your application without technically develop the coding infrastructure, the back office of it. It's also a very low infrastructure development in order to hope to quickly scale and maybe benefit from the network effects, which were already mentioned. And of course, it is consumer-centric, technology-enhanced, and the last one, it's data-driven. Data-driven in the sense that we are in the digital platforms push to an extent way of valuing the data. They are plugging directly the business on the data, and the data is still continue to contribute to the new opportunities and to, I would say, exploit the whole potential of an untapped value. So what is at stake when we mention that? It's seductive, it's attractive due to the technology, but let's see what happens at the level of the business models and the different layers of a business model. As it was already mentioned, the business model, we can sum up that as the way companies, the rationales by which organizations can create, deliver, and capture value. Let's say there is a value proposition, there is a value architecture, and there is a value capture mechanism. The first thing regarding what is at stake for companies to take advantage of platform designs is, well, coming to a linear view of their business model to a more dynamic view of the business model. Is the business model canvas, which is well adopted by the company, still relevant to address the design behind digital platforms? The answer is no. Just at the layer of the value proposition, we need a new framework. We need a new framework to address the fact that the more sites you have onboarded on your platform, the more value proposition you need to develop. You need to develop a value proposition for each site. And this is just an example of the way we can mirror the traditional value proposition canvas, which is definitely one-sided, into a mirror where we can figure that maybe, which is definitely not the case. Just take the example for that of Facebook. I'm not sure that the interest of the advertisers on one side is the interest of the end user of Facebook on the other side. So the mirror, the benefits of the one are not answering the pains on the other side, but definitely the owner and the provider of the platform is trying to balance at the both sides. But definitely we need new frameworks. This one is just I would say an adaptation, as it is written, of the Osterwalder and the Pinier work, but there are different ways to see that. The second aspect is related to the network effects. Everything, our lives are driven by network effects, as the NFX company mentioned that. There is a very interesting video where they, on YouTube, they are trying to gather the all categories of network effects that we can identify. But the potential of network effects is just an exponential way of adoption by the participant. But beyond that, how can we, except of the organic development, the organic adoption, all the companies can reach this full potential of the network effects? What NFX mentioned is that you have defensive strategies. You can scale the basis of the participants on each side. You can embed your product in a bigger product. The platform as a product, but you can embed your business in a bigger and larger business, such as Spotify is embedded in mobile operators as a service for mobile operators, if we can consider Spotify as a platform. And also the brand can be used in order to reach that. But what is interesting is that NFX show that if you do that, you are in an S-curve context. I try to write on the slide to show you that there is a zone in which you need to find a way how you can quickly gain traction in order to scale. And based on the tactics, managing strategies in order to operationalize your I would say the benefits of the network effects, there is I would say an opportunity window in which we are not entirely sure how to do that, except experimenting. So this is another aspect. So the last one is coming from two-sided markets to two-sided marketing, and I will let Laurent continue on that path. Maybe you will give us the answer, Laurent. Who was first? This is the egg or the chicken?
Yeah, I mean, thank you, Sébastien. No, I mean, I guess you're right. I mean, we want to reach that scale effect and to get to that network effect, the platform needs to grow. And I guess for me, coming from marketing, it has always been about like looking from two-sided market to, as the title says there, like two-sided marketing. So in other words, how do I address this fundamental issue that is called the chicken and egg problem? We know that platform, as Sébastien have mentioned and Christopher earlier actually, are successful when they create this cross network effect between one or two sides. And so this framework by Launchwork there like really shows the way you first need to attract participant on both sides, producer and users, if you're in a two-sided market, and that's the initial very hard phase, and that's where marketing is very useful. Then the rest, in terms of matching, connecting, and enabling a transaction, is really based on the core competencies that I was alluding to when I asked this question about Uber, that most platforms are specialized in, through some type of algorithmic IT-enabled, secure element that they built, and then you use the data that you have to optimize. So the big question is, how are you going to be going about attracting? Now, again, in order, the prerequisite is for the platform needs to work. So the platform for working needs to have a core competencies, and those key enabler and core competency, in my opinion, they are the same. They're based on user experience, security, accuracy, and that leads to building trust, and building trust between two components, if you're in a two-sided platform or if you are in a peer-to-peer environment, whereby you make sure that the people who are connecting to the platform are trustworthy. And if you take the example of a company like BlaBlaCar, you can imagine going into someone's private car or welcoming someone into your car is extremely important. And I invite anybody, actually it'd be one of the case in the book, actually, to talk about, look at the dreams framework that BlaBlaCar has invented in order to build trust for people to join their platform, where people are declared rated, moderated, social, active, and engaged. So there is a couple of, I'm going to pass through the slide, but there is a couple of things that you need to do in order to attract people on the platform. And actually, I'm just thinking, this is all in the book, by the way, so I don't need to spend too much time. And I'm going to give you the opportunity at the end of it, to get a draft of the book if you send me an email and promise to help us out with our work. But it will be an ebook, so I think we will make it available. And that's actually another things that is interesting in terms of platform and a center like mine, in terms of diffusing knowledge and the tools that we're using. But basically, to attract a couple of things, through the literature and the management literature, there's a couple of techniques that one can use. The first one is, to start small and then expand. And if you look at Buy Me is the Uber, just to come back on that original expression, of online delivery services. So, or it's the Uber Eat of grocery, if you want. So to expand, so you get someone to pick up your grocery in a specific shop that actually does exist. So the network and the supply network does exist. It's all the physical store. All you need is someone to go and shop on your behalf in those shops and bring you the grocery. And for that, you need a great app that allows you to do this. And actually, Buy Me has a great business model because it doesn't have the infrastructure that all the other online grocery people have. But just to come back on our issue, they concentrate on a very small market. Specifically, they started on Dublin and are now scaling across the UK. The other things is that when you develop a double-sided value proposition that Sébastien has expressed there, maybe there is one side that needs to be attracted with a very specific value proposition. Now, this runs the issue of maybe having an issue called the double company, but at least you need to focus on one side and propose something that will be appealing to them. Usually the side that maybe has the least interest, at least at the beginning, in being part of the network. So if you think of OpenTable, for example, it's a very great service for people because they can, you can check which room, which table are available at any given time. So rather than calling all the restaurant, you look at the time where you want to go out for eating, and then you have all the restaurants that have a table there. Now, most restaurants wouldn't be too easy to attract to that platform. So what they did initially is that they actually help restaurants to manage their own online booking. right? And then after, it was easy for them to transfer that capacity, if you want, to their platform and making it open to a much wider audience who would have an interest in using that platform as a restaurant goer. Same for Halo and My Taxi. The other aspect is to select what's called a marquee or a captive user. Here you see a great example of a partnership between Pizza Hut and Deliveroo. And in that case, basically what it does is it allows Deliveroo to show that they have a marquee user, a big name. So if you want to order from Pizza Hut, you go through Deliveroo, and that gives you an incentive to use Deliveroo. Okay. At the same time, the more it goes, the more it makes Pizza Hut a loyal, i.e., captive user of the platform because they've outsourced this capacity. I'm actually just looking, and it's my own fault for asking that question earlier, but there's other technique, platform staging, like going through different stages when you launch your platform. We all know that Amazon started as a vendor and more like a traditional business where they store and distributed book. And had the fulfillment and all of those functions, and then they became like more like a marketplace and had like Amazon sellers where anybody can sell their product on Amazon, and then they play between those two aspects of their business. Finally, oh no, actually there's two more points. Subsidize one side, again, if you look at like the example that Sebastian was using for Facebook, you've got both sides. You have a user side and an advertising side. And in order to entice it's relatively easy for to get user on the platform because everybody wanted to connect with their friends and share a picture, all of this for free. What is there not to like, right? So that was kind of easy. Getting the business side, at least initially, was a little bit more complicated because like, why would they join like this social network? So Facebook enticed them by allowing them to make those fan page and those brand page for free. And then you could reach and communicate with your audience as if they were more or less your friends or your fans. And then, of course, gradually, what happened is Facebook, and that was, you could reach them through organic reach, and Facebook took that opportunity away. And now, like, if you want, all the companies are on Facebook, they know the value that they can get out of the platform. But now, in order to reach this audience, the user audience, of course, they need to pay, and the organic reach has come to virtually nothing on Facebook. So if you're a company, you go on Facebook, but you're going to pay. eBay, Airbnb, they do site switching tactic where as soon as you book something with Airbnb as a travelers, you'll be asked at the end of your booking process, now that you're traveling to somewhere beautiful in Ireland, while you're away, why don't you put your own home on the market as a host? And so therefore managing this site switching. And finally, those communication and those stage of development can be sequential, and marketing needs to be able to play on those different stages. So Sebastian and I are French, and the French, they love like going on strike, and the railway system particularly enjoy that big tradition. So every once in a while we have strikes in France, and when there is a strike, BlaBlaCar, which traditionally has no problem balancing if you want, the two side and recruiting both riders and travelers, both riders and drivers. When there's a strike, they have like a big influx of riders and travelers, if you want, but they need drivers. And so what they do is they shift their communication and all their PR on recruiting drivers so that they can counterbalance, and they play on other motives such as like the solidarity and so they attract people who normally wouldn't have been attracted to the platform because they don't need the money and they don't want people in their car, but they join the platform, and a lot of them do stay after that. We've included a case in the in the chapter, but I'm not going to talk about it. It's actually, interestingly enough, it's a case developed by one of our students, but I'll just skip it, and I'll just come to what I want to do. So basically, we're in the process of writing a book. It's fairly advanced, but what I would like for you to do is, if you want a sample, it will be an ebook, and hopefully we will make it widely available. But in the meantime, if you want to share the book and get, not share the book, if you want to get the draft of these particular chapters that we've written, you can email me at digitalbusiness@tcd.ie, and I will send you a PDF format of this chapter. Again, it's a draft, but the idea is, if you want to review it, criticize our work, and even propose us your services to write a mini case or offer an academic insight, we will be more than happy to discuss with you. And of course, by doing that, you could also pre-register so that you can receive a free online copy of the book once published. We're in talk with a major publisher, but we just need to iron out a few things.